For nearly 80 years, St. John's United Methodist Church has been located at the corner of 15th and University. If you're a first-time attendee or a long-time member, if you're young or old, rich or poor, and no matter what you believe or what you doubt, no matter what you count on or what you question, we want you to know that not only are you welcome at St. John's, you're celebrated here, and we're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to St. John's United Methodist Church. If you're following us online, thank you for joining us too. If you don't know me, I'm Shiloh Morris. I'm the Associate Pastor of Student Ministries. We have quite a few announcements this morning. One, Kyle, I could have him come up here, but I don't think he wants me to announce about the pumpkin carving event at the Pumpkin Trail. St. John's has decided to participate in this year's citywide pumpkin trail from October 18th through the 21st. We need 15 to 20 pumpkins donated for the event. Pumpkins should be donated no later than Monday, October 15th to the communications office. We will be having a pumpkin carving event on October 17th from 6:30 to 8:30. Also, I'm supposed to say, hashtag it's fall, y'all, because that is the most southern thing someone can say. Michael Jordan has a quick announcement.
Good morning. I wanted to let everyone know that we will be hosting Family Promise again the week of November 26th. That's the Sunday after Thanksgiving through December 2nd. So if you're not familiar with Family Promise, this is our ministry that assists homeless families in the Lubbock area. So we will be hosting again. What that means is that we need volunteers. And everyone knows volunteering is a great way to work off those calories, right? So go ahead and have that extra piece of pie and then volunteer the next week, and it erases that zero-sum game, okay? But we need volunteers for a couple things. We need volunteers to be overnight hosts. We need volunteers to bring dinner. We need hosts for the evening from 5 to 9, basically, 5:30 to 9. And we also need hosts for Saturday, December 1st and Sunday, December 2nd. So if you would be willing to come and give of your time, I know the families would be very appreciative. Most recently, we had 4 families in the program, including 3 children under the age of 2 months. So this primarily helps single moms who are homeless in the Lubbock area. It's our way of helping them get back on their feet, save up money, and get a place of their own. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will also hopefully today be posting a link on St. John's Connects where you can go online and sign up via Sign Up Genius. But if you have any questions about what it entails, where this happens, it's just at 13th and W, a short distance from here. If you want to go see the facility before you volunteer, it's a parsonage, old parsonage. I'd be happy to arrange that too. So if you have any questions, let me know, but we look forward to fulfilling our obligation and helping our brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. A couple more announcements. We do have Reconciling Sunday coming up quickly. We will be celebrating on October 21st. We will only have one service, a late service at 10:30 a.m. Also, we have an event coming up that's Student Ministries. Trunk or Treat's right around the corner, and I'm super excited. If I haven't talked to you yet, or Haley hasn't found you yet, there is a chance we will come and talk to you and be like, hey, can we borrow your trunk and you? It's a great time, and we typically average about 300 neighborhood kids. So it is a fun event that is free, and it's family-oriented, and we want everybody to come join us. Kevin has one announcement.
It is not the way that I would wish to begin a worship service, but I felt that before we even got started this morning, that I needed to address the elephant in the room. And that is to say to all who are here and who are watching online, who are victims, targets of sexual assault and violence, that, first of all, I don't know what to say. And secondly, just that as much as there is within me to do this, I send out to you divine love, human love, healing, peace, strength. This has been a tough week for a lot of people. And what I wanted to do is just ask that those of us who are gathered here today make a covenant with one another this morning that we will surround each other with protection and healing, that we'll be a listening ear, that we'll believe you when you tell us, and also let you know that all of our staff, our clergy staff and ministry staff are here for anyone who just need to talk. And I just felt like I needed to say something. Bless you.
And with that, this is a special Sunday. This is World Communion Sunday, and you'll see in the processional that there are various clothings from other traditions, not of our own. With that being said, this is the day the Lord has made, and it is good. Let us prepare our hearts and minds as we worship God together.
Please stand as you are able for the call to worship. On World Communion Sunday, we recognize that we are neighbors, and we have neighbors. But to be a neighbor means more than just living near each other. Being a neighbor is daring to see ourselves as one common enemy. Being a neighbor is daring to accept that our relationships include even people we'll never meet. Being a neighbor is caring for one another, not just as a sentiment, but as shared trust. Who is my neighbor? Are you my neighbor? I am your neighbor. Are you my neighbor? I am your neighbor. We live in times when we can all use a good neighbor. Our gracious God gathers us together today as neighbors of the world around the table that Jesus prepared. We come to feast together. Have mercy on your church, loving God, and on our neighbors around the world, troubled and divided. Renew us and make us one. Amen.
The New Testament lesson can be found on the New Testament section of the Bible, pages 218 to 219. It's from Hebrews 1 through 4, and 2, 5 through 12. Long ago, God spoke to our ancestors in many and various ways by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by a Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, through whom he also created the worlds. He is the reflection of God's glory and the exact imprint of God's very being. And he sustains all things by his powerful word. When he had made purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become as much superior to angels as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. Excuse me. Now God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels, but someone has testified somewhere. What are human beings that you are mindful of them, or mortals that you care for them? You have made them for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor, subjecting all things under their feet. Now, in subjecting all things to them, God left nothing outside their control. As it is, we do not yet see everything in subjection to them, but we do see Jesus, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. It was fitting that God, for whom and through whom all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For the one who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one Father. For this reason, Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters, saying, I will proclaim your name to my brothers and sisters. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. May we hear with our hearts all that God would say to us today.
Dear children, please come up.
Good morning, guys. How's it going today? Is it going well? Good. So, Emmett, what do you have in your hand?
A globe.
And tell me, what does the globe represent?
The earth.
The earth? Yeah, so it represents all of the countries. And as we saw today, we saw a whole bunch of different countries coming down the aisle and representing us as humans. The world's a little bit bigger than Lubbock, right? To some, maybe, yeah, absolutely. So, Jaden, this morning, what did we do in Sunday school?
We picked between three countries, and three of us practiced, and we were just practicing and talking about different countries.
Yeah, so can you tell me about your country?
So my country is Mexico, and its primary religion is Christianity, and the
Primary denomination?
is Catholic, and Dia de los Muertos stands for Day of the Dead.
Yeah, and what is Day of the Dead?
They celebrate their ancestors.
Awesome. Amen. I'll hold this way.
Mine was Italy. So the
Remember the history?
So the history of Italy is that they used to believe in Roman medicine, and they had something called the Colosseum. It was their biggest entertainment in Rome, which is their capital.
And now today, what religion do they practice today predominantly?
Christian,
Right, absolutely.
and the domination is Catholic.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Haven, what was your country?
Egypt.
And tell me about Egypt.
Christianity is the second largest
Religion, yeah. So we have some different ones today that we talked about. And as we saw, as the people came down forward, that we are all a little bit different. And is difference okay? Yeah, and it should be celebrated like we celebrated today. Okay, sorry. And so the reason that we have a globe is to know that we are all united as people. And we can be united through love and kindness and compassion. So thank you guys for being such great sports and learning today during Sunday school. Will you all please pray with me? Dear God, we know the world is big. There are many countries that we have yet to learn about, and some places that we don't know yet. Although the world is big, we know that you and love are bigger. Bigger than the walls that keep us apart, bigger than disagreements or unkind acts. Love and compassion binds us all, no matter culture, no matter what we look like, where we are from, or how we worship. We can always choose love. Amen.
Beautifully done. Thank you. The technical term for nearsightedness is familiar to most of us. It's myopia. If you're myopic, you can see things that are near, but not things that are far away. The term for the opposite condition, farsightedness, is less familiar. That term is hyperopia. And if you're hyperopic, you can see things that are far away more clearly than things that are really up close. A very common condition of aging is to become hyperopic. That's because as the years pass, the eye muscles lose elasticity and they lose the capacity to tighten up and to focus on objects that are really close at hand. And that's why things like reading instructions on medicine bottles and threading needles become tasks that we do at arm's length. Or at least I'm told that. Hyperopia isn't that bad. However, it does have some benefits. For example, road signs can begin to come into focus. You can go to sporting events like baseball games and enjoy them from the cheap seats. I keep thinking that it will make me better at finding my keys, so long as they're not right under my nose, I suppose. But apart from this physical hyperopia, there's a hyperopia that's more spiritual or philosophical in nature. It's more spiritual kind of hyperopic vision can develop at any age. And what it tends to do is to stretch life's dreams and life's expectations further out before us. The good thing about this spiritual hyperopia is that it can keep our lives full with the infinite possibilities that come into focus out before us, even when our up-close reality looks a little grainier. It is spiritual farsightedness, for example, that keeps us flipping burgers at the part-time job in fast food while we attend classes at night in order to complete our college degree, because our focus is on something a little further down the road. Or spiritual farsightedness is why living on one income is tolerable, when the payoff is that one parent gets to stay home with the children until they reach school age. Spiritual hyperopia can be the explanation as to why we don't just throw up our hands and quit when once again we find ourselves facing last month's bills with this month's Social Security check. Spiritual hyperopia is akin to faith. It allows us to keep our focus on our destinations and not just on our current locations. And it can help us to feel assured of those things that our hopes are set upon. And it can fuel our convictions regarding things that at the present may still remain unseen. Maybe this is why, back before there was a long history and record of human experiences with and speculations about God to draw upon and to learn from. Before those days, maybe that's why God waited until Abraham was 75 years old before God ever called him. As a pioneer and as a patriarch of this family of faith to which we continue to belong millennia later, it was going to be important for Abraham to be able to focus on God's future from a distance. If Abraham was going to be a faithful partner in this divine human covenant that God was making known to him and making known through him, because you see, God makes this covenant known to Abraham not only to bless Abraham, but also in order that the whole world would be blessed through this covenant that God declares to Abraham, in order that the whole world would come to be secured in this covenant. If God's covenant was for all of humanity, God would need Abraham to have the ability to keep focused on the divine future from a distance. But what about now? Now, with the 21st century nearing the end of its teens, the ancient covenant of God persists. Our faith teaches that this covenant continues to be held in trust by a particular people. And there's a sacred sign that these people are trustees of God's covenant. The covenant reached into our lives and was declared to be present and effective in our lives in our baptism. That's why we call the ritual that we observe when we're baptized the baptismal covenant. Baptism is not seen as a symbol of a decision that we've made, but it's seen as a sign of ratification of a covenant that is the gift of God. The covenant of God is held in trust by a particular community, the community of the baptized. And it's in our trust because it was preserved for us by our hyperopic ancestors whose faith genes are also still with us and still responsible for that unmistakable family trait, that distinguishing squint, always in the direction of the divine future, which somehow continues to stay in focus for us today due to our own DNA and our own unavoidable spiritual hyperopia. I wonder to what degree we understand ourselves to be heirs and present stewards of the divine covenant of God. The divine covenant that God has made with all of humanity. The covenant that God declared to and through Abraham and continues to declare to and through us. Over the years, I've become convinced that the effectiveness and the faithfulness of God's covenant community is in direct proportion with the degree to which that worldwide community of the baptized lives with a conscious awareness of its place in the world, its place as a covenant people of God. If God's covenant community is going to be a faithful partner in the covenant that God has made known to us and is making known through us, we need to be able to keep focused on the divine future from a distance. For Christians, our spiritual hyperopia begins in our baptism. When we proclaim that God's covenant has reached us, and when we reaffirm the trust established in God's name, and we recommit to faithfulness to that covenant until that day finally arrives when that covenant unites the whole world as the family of God. On World Communion Sunday, we squint again in the direction of the divine future. And as we squint, I would ask, what comes into focus for St. John's United Methodist Church of Lubbock, Texas? What comes into focus in the divine future that will enable us to embody faith today and to take risks today and to work to bring about God's will for the world that God so loves? What do we see from a distance through the eyes of faith? That's our question for World Communion Sunday. In the name of Christ, amen.
Please be seated. If you would, please join me in the prayer of confession. You may find it in your bulletin this morning. Jesus prayed that we might be one in spirit, one in mission, and one in communion with each other and with God. For those times when we failed to be faithful to our calling as followers of Christ, and for our failures to be faithful to each other or even to God, let us offer our prayer. Loving God, we confess fumblings and failures in accomplishing unity as we set aside yet another day to remind ourselves of the task. On this World Communion Sunday, give us eyes to recognize your reflection in the eyes of people everywhere. Give us a mind to accept and celebrate our differences. Give us a heart big enough to love your children everywhere. We thank you for setting a table with space enough for us all. Through the life and teachings of Jesus, we are persuaded that the love of God is not parceled out, but overflowing and unescapable. For such a great love as this, we gave thanks. Such a love as this, we give our hearts over to grace and assurance and reconciliation and peace. Praise God. As forgiven and reconciled children of God, let us offer to one another signs of peace.
For nearly 80 years, St. John's United Methodist Church has been located at the corner of 15th and University. If you're a first-time attendee or a long-time member, if you're young or old, rich or poor, and no matter what you believe or what you doubt, no matter what you count on or what you question, we want you to know that not only are you welcome at St. John's, you're celebrated here, and we're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Forgot it was my turn. Come ahead, Usher. Oops. Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for the goodness and the warmth of the company in which we gather this morning. Thank you for the healing power of your presence and for the kindness and love and strength that we draw from one another. Pour out your Spirit upon these gifts that we might be faithful to that to which you have called us. In the name of Christ, amen. Thank you. Please be seated. First, we'll be singing from a musical setting for our Great Thanksgiving this morning that is found on page 24 in the United Methodist Hymnal. You can go ahead and find your place there and prepare to join in as we sing our thanks to God. Before we begin, I also want to express a word of thanks for this beautiful altar. Once again, Robbie Vestal has offered his gifts to us and brought to life some of the abundance and the beauty of this World Communion Sunday, and then constructed this entire thing atop of this beautiful kimono that is on loan to us from Colleen Sedberry. So for this offering as well, I give thanks. Will you join me now? The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Lift up your hearts. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is right and a good and joyful thing always and everywhere to give thanks to you, God of all. From the rising of the sun to its setting, your love and abundance are for all the earth. And therefore we praise you, joining our voices with your people on earth and all the company of heaven who forever sing the glory of your name. You are holy, and holy is your Son, Jesus the Christ. In the power of your Spirit, he blessed your world and called followers who would make your mercies and truths known in all the world. In living his life among us, he taught us what it means to love our neighbor as ourselves. Through his actions and by placing his life entirely in your trust, he willingly faced every personal cost and became the herald of life that in you never dies. Through Jesus, your church has been brought to life and lives on to love and to serve in your name as Christ loved and served in your name. On the night of his betrayal, Jesus gave new meaning to the breaking of bread when he took bread and he blessed it and he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Remember, when you eat of this, that it was my physical body that I gave for you. As often as you eat together, do this in remembrance of me." And when the supper was over, he did much the same with the cup, saying, "Whenever you drink from this cup, remember that the new covenant is established in my blood. So as often as you drink of this, do this in remembrance of me." So in remembrance of Jesus and all your mighty acts in Jesus, we offer ourselves in union with his offering for us as we proclaim the mystery of faith. Pour out your Spirit on us and pour out your Spirit on these gifts. Remind us that we are the body of Christ as we live and serve in your world today. Glory to you, gracious God. Let your kingdom come. Glory to the Son. Be our daily bread. Glory to the Spirit. Send us to our neighbor and to our world. Glory to you now, gracious God, to the ages of ages. As our stewards come to join us, let me say to all who are guests with us today that in United Methodist tradition we practice an open communion table. This is for us, and I believe in the intentions of Christ, one of the beautiful signs of our true unity. I think maybe the reason Christ broke bread and blessed and drank the wine with his disciples is because that's one thing that reminds us of our common humanity, that the food that we eat is the food that comes from God's earth. The wine that we drink is the fruit of the vine that comes from God's good earth. And so in this, somehow we can see that we really are one. And for that reason, I think that Christ invites everyone to come and to celebrate and to experience in this moment that which we believe will come to pass ultimately someday when everyone sits together and feasts on God's food together as siblings and as neighbor and as family. So we invite everyone to come and to receive communion. When you come, you'll kneel here at the communion rail, and one of us will pass by with a piece of bread and place it into your hand with the words, "The body of Christ given for you." The chalice will come by, and you can simply dip the bread lightly into the wine that's in the chalice and eat. You'll hear the words, "The blood of Christ given for you." Because God invites everyone, we invite everyone, but we also want you to know if there's any reason that you don't want to receive communion this morning, just stay where you are. Others will do that as well. No one will think a thing of that. But feel the warmth and the welcome of God as we invite you now all to come and to receive.
For nearly 80 years, St. John's United Methodist Church has been located at the corner of 15th and University. If you're a first-time attendee or a long-time member, if you're young or old, rich or poor, and no matter what you believe or what you doubt, no matter what you count on or what you question, we want you to know that not only are you welcome at St. John's, you're celebrated here, and we're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would ask, how much of the anxiety that you carry in your shoulders and in your body and in your mind comes from focusing so intently on the things that are immediately before you? If you think about it, all those things that are immediately in front of you that are capturing your attention are on a path towards something bigger than that. And if we can lift our focus a bit and see things just a little further down the road, some of that anxiety can be lifted. And then there's another thing I think of, and that is, do we see the life of God and the story of God as a part of our life and story? In other words, we have so much of life that we live, and God's a little part of that. Or do we see our stories and our lives as a part of the story and the life of God? There's also something that changes when the things that we're focusing on, when we can see those in relationship to the covenant of God, when we can see those things in relationship to our bigger purpose in life. So I guess as an act of faith this morning, I would say to not only look a little farther down the road, to focus on something a little further past that thing that has your attention at this very moment, but to see those things that come into focus as a part of the life of God and you as a part of that larger story. Maybe that'll help a little. As we sing our hymn of faith this morning, we could commit to these acts of faith, these and others as well that are on your hearts. Coming to join the church is an act of faith, and today may be your day. If you wish to come and join the church, come and join. But let's join our voices together, and as we sing, offer our hearts and our commitments to God. Will you stand and join as we sing?
Please be seated. It is with great joy I get to announce that our own Avery Hendrickson, who comes from St. John's in Albuquerque, who has been with us for 2 years now, is a choral scholar, is choosing to do an affiliate membership with us.
And as an affiliate member, this is a public service announcement. Because we have lots of students who come to church here the entire time that they are students and wonder, well, can I be a part of a church and not give up my membership in my home church? And the answer to that is yes, and that's exactly what Avery is doing in an affiliate membership today, which is a full membership. And we welcome you and are so happy that you've made this decision. And I ask you, as you come to be a part of St. John's in Lubbock, will you support this church with your prayers, your presence, your gifts, and your service and your witness?
I will.
And congregation, this also is part of our covenant together. That's why you find this response for you to give, where you also are invited to not only welcome Avery, but to renew your pledge and your covenant to support our congregation. So will you join me as we receive Avery? We rejoice to welcome you as members of Christ's Holy Church, and we bid you welcome to St. John's United Methodist Church. With you, we renew our vows to uphold it, our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. I'll ask Avery to join me in the narthex as you leave today. Will you come by and say hello to her? And if you haven't yet had the opportunity to meet her, to introduce yourself and to welcome Avery as officially a member of this family of faith. We're so happy you're here.
Now, if you would, please rise as you are able and join me in our benediction. Let us hear this with open ears and open hearts and open minds. May we go from this place in the name of God of love and justice. May we go to follow Christ, who brings into our lives a loving passion for all humankind. By the Holy Spirit, may we see beyond our personal interests and ambitions so that we might truly be neighbors to each other. And may we know the peace of God that passes understanding as we go from this place in God's embrace. Amen.